Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Friday morning, and what a happy bunch of Utah Mammoth fans we have. A great night for the Mammoth as they clinch a playoff berth. They are in the Stanley Cup playoffs in just their second year here in Utah. The rebuild continues. Arizona had to witness the heavy lifting. This was a dominant win. 4-1 over Nashville. They got a goal in the first period. They got another in the second. They got two early in the third to put the game away, and then Nashville ruined the shutout, but I don't think that really matters. A power play goal midway through the third period made it 4-1, and that's the final, and the Mammoth are in. Now the question is, and they still got like 4 games to play, Carolina coming up this weekend with the best record in the East. The question is, who's going to win the Pacific Division? Who are they going to get in the playoffs, and why will it be Edmonton? Okay, we don't know that, but it's going to be Edmonton, isn't it? All right, we'll talk about that later this morning. We talked quite a bit of hockey now. We talked with Cole Bagley yesterday. They hadn't clinched yet, obviously, but there are some trends with this team. They're scoring so many goals. This is 5 straight games now with 4 goals. They've scored 29 goals in the last 5 games, almost 6 per game. And this is a team that's averaging a little over 3 goals a game, just barely a little over 3 goals a game, and winning in defense most of the season. But it's been a different deal. Here's Cole Bagley talking about it with PK and I on the Zone. You're taking notes during games. You're tweeting out stuff during games. You're trying to get everything. Can you even keep up when it's a game like the Edmonton game? It seemed like something was happening every 2 minutes. You were probably still doing the last thing when the next thing happened.
Yeah, I mean, most times that I was tweeting score updates, the other team was then going to the other end and putting one in the back of the net. So, no, that was a fun game. That's what we would call a barn burner, a game with 11 goals. I think there was 3 lead changes, multiple ties, and then, of course, an OT winner that just sent Delta Center into an absolute frenzy. So, yeah, it obviously, I think a lot of fans didn't necessarily appreciate some of the back and forth. It definitely got the blood flowing, and people were definitely a little anxious. But at the end of the day, Utah got it done. They beat Edmonton for the first time in franchise history, and they inched just a little bit closer to clinching a playoff spot.
Do you think they needed that game to prove something to themselves?
Oh, 100%. As of right now, it's the trajectory that both teams are on. They would end up meeting in the first round. And, do you really want to go into a first-round series against a team that you've never beaten, especially when they are, outfitted with the likes of Connor McDavid? We'll see what the status is of Leon Draisaitl, as the playoffs get closer. He's obviously been out with injury for a couple of weeks, and, the overall whereabouts of his situation are unknown, but, we'll see how that continues to develop. But for Utah, absolutely. They needed to win that game, not only to improve their chances to get into the postseason, but as well to prove to themselves that, McDavid was no longer Goliath, that they could, conquer that team, that they could beat them. And it took a lot. It wasn't necessarily the prettiest game. There definitely were a lot of mistakes, a lot of hiccups, especially defensively and in between the pipes. But, they did what they've been able to do over the last, 2 weeks, which is, weather the storm, accurately and effectively navigate adversity, right? I mean, how many times has that team trailed early over these last couple of weeks and then ended up coming back and winning? That's what good teams do. That's what playoff teams do. And so I think for Utah, yeah, it was a huge confidence boost, because if you're going to face those guys here in about the next 10 to 14 days in the first round of the playoffs, you needed to make sure that you had proven that you could beat them at some point.
Cole Bagley joining us, insider covering the Mammoth for KSL Sports. His appearance brought to you by Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. This is a team that's been top 5 defensively, but they have struggled to score, averaging a little over 3 goals a game for the season. But over the last 10 games, that goes up to 4.5 goals. And over the last 4 games, they've scored 25 goals. It's over 6 a game. So what is happening here? Is it simply a hot streak? Is it partly having Logan Cooley back, and he's got some games now, so he's kind of getting into the flow of everything? He's not just back. Is it something else? Because they're scoring goals at a stunning rate versus what we've seen all season.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. First and foremost, I think just everybody on the team has kind of, locked in. They've all taken their games to another level, especially offensively. Clayton Keller, in my opinion, is playing the best hockey of the season right now. Individually, he has been just all over the ice. He has a different demeanor about him. He's playing in a way where he has the ability to kind of take over games offensively and put the team in positions to win hockey games. That top line has just been tremendously good over the last couple of weeks. And then it just goes down from there, right? I mean, the second line, Logan Cooley and Dylan Guenther have been producing. Gunther's chasing that 40-goal benchmark, which is just simply elite. Logan Cooley, it feels like he's kind of gotten back to his game. He missed a couple of months due to injury, and it was a little bit rough there for a while. It took him a minute to kind of settle back in, but he's now back at the top of his game. And then having him as well on the top power play unit has done wonders. They all season long they've been, I think, the second worst power play in the National Hockey League. Well, as of late, they're connecting on, I think, more than, or at least close to 30% of their chances, which puts them towards the top of the league, at least as of, recently. Having him back is a big deal. And then the depth just continues to step up every night. You're getting big goals from Alexander Kerfoot and Kyler Yamamoto and Liam O'Brien. And, everybody is contributing right now. Which I think speaks volumes to their intentions. A season ago, the Utah Hockey Club it never felt like they were really had that belief. It never felt like they were, taking, playoff implications seriously. Whereas, you fast forward to this year as the Mammoth and, the additions that they made and the maturity that we've seen from this group, they want it. And you can tell that they want it, and they're playing in a way that proves that. So I think, if you had to kind of pin the offense on anything, I would say it's probably those things. They are taking this push seriously, and they'll have an opportunity to clinch tonight based on a couple of factors.
Then how do they go from wanting to be in the playoff to transform that then to wanting to win in the playoffs? Because it's one thing to just get there, but obviously another to win.
Yeah, I think it's all about taking it a step at a time. Bill Armstrong and the entire front office have been very patient with this rebuild. They understand what it's going to take to eventually become a team that can compete for Stanley Cups. Bill has said time and time again, he's outlined how long it generally does take for teams to accomplish that. And it's usually anywhere between 8 to 12 years for teams who, decide to rebuild to, become contenders. And so, just taking a year at a time. The biggest thing for them, the most important thing for them is to get in and then go from there. Obviously, depending on who they draw, will probably set expectations for what the postseason is. If they do end up drawing Edmonton, I don't know that that's a series that they can win. It just feels kind of insurmountable with, who is going to bet against Connor McDavid in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, especially after what Edmonton has accomplished over the last few years. Obviously, they haven't won a cup yet, but nobody in the West has been able to tame the Oilers. So, that one feels difficult. But then if you look at Anaheim and Vegas, if Utah does end up drawing, either of those teams, expectations would shift. I think those are both series that Utah would potentially even be favored in, or at least series that they know that they could win. So, like I said, I think it's just continue to be patient, continue to build, take it a step at a time, and we'll see who they end up drawing in the postseason. If it's one of those other two teams, yeah, they could probably win that first round. But if it's Edmonton, obviously they would go in with hope and belief, but they would maybe have to shift their expectations just a little bit.
Did it blow you away that after having the goal and the assist in Utah, he turned around and had the hat trick and 2 more assists and a 5-2 win in San Jose, going back-to-back on the road?
No, that's
he's
that's
just that good. He can do whatever he wants. Nothing's going to surprise you at this point.
No, I mean, I was able to sit down with a couple of the Mammoth players, the other day at practice, just as they were preparing for the Oilers, and I asked all of them, and I said, how do you contain this guy? What is it? How good is he? And without question, each of them said Connor McDavid is the best player in the world. And there's a debate that it's between him and Nathan McKinnon. But what stands out about Connor McDavid's game is, hockey is such a team sport, and so when you have a superstar that is just a one-way train of offense who can create something out of nothing every single shift, that's what separates him as the best player in the league. And we've seen that time and again, when they played Utah. I mean, he did that over their last two matchups. He dangled his way through the entire defense on the power play the other night, went right to the net, beat two guys, and you watch his ability to change direction, to stop on a dime, to maneuver in very tight spaces. There's just nobody like Connor McDavid, so nothing he does surprises me.
All right, there is Cole Bagley, and after that conversation, then the Mammoth went out and won 4-1, beat Nashville, clinched a playoff berth. They're in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll get to the best of the postgame show next. Stay with us. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Well, the Utah Mammoth did it. They beat Nashville 4-1. Good at both ends of the rink. 4 goals, good number. Held them to just 1. Excellent. You win a ton of hockey games with that. It was a tour de force, command performance. And they clinched the playoff berth. Let's get to the best of the postgame show.
DJ and PK, the Utah Mammoth have officially clinched a spot in the 2026 Stanley Cup playoffs as they defeated the Nashville Predators by a count of 4-1 on Thursday night at the Dulles Center. That combined with Anaheim's 6-1 victory over the San Jose Sharks makes it official. X marking the spot with the Utah Mammoth and the 2026 Stanley Cup playoffs. The Mammoth would lead from tape to tape on Thursday night at the Dulles Center in a contest that followed an exciting one on Tuesday, 6-5 in overtime over Edmonton, and the buzz was still going on Thursday. Kyler Yamamoto got the scoring started 14:27 into the first on his 12th of the year and his second goal in the last 3 games for the Mammoth. Both have been Utah's first to the contest.
Cooley steals it right back. Gunther's up the ice with Yamamoto. Here comes Gunther on his backhand. In front, and they score! It's Yammer time!
And it'd stay 1-0 until the second. Nick Schmaltz would get his 31st of the year, 18 seconds into Utah's second power play, and this would be the first of 3 straight goals assisted by Utah captain Clayton Keller.
Cooley, near side wall, scanning and finds Keller. In from the goal line. Keller back door. They score! Tic-tac-toe. And Nick Schmaltz has his 31st goal of the year, and his career season continues.
2-0 through the remainder of the second. Karel Vejmelka made some big stops to keep that contest at 2-0 before the Mammoth came out in the third and put it away. Lawson Krause on his 22nd made it 3-0, 3:03 into the third.
Sergachev back skates on the blue line, hits a streaking Keller. Keller across. One-timer, they score! And it's Lawson Krause who makes it 3-0. And Utah's top line cashes in.
And 3 minutes and 2 seconds after that, Dylan Gunther would get his 39th.
Keller squeezes down the wing, in with Gunther. Keller across, they score again! And this time it's Dylan Gunther, his 39th of the year, and it comes off the 3rd assist of the night from the captain, Clayton Keller.
So 4-0 Mammoth. Karel Vejmelka stopping the first 22 shots that he saw in 29 of 30 as he earns his 37th victory of the season, as that now is tied for the most wins in the NHL by a single goaltender with Andrei Vasilevsky of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So the Mammoth are rolling. That's 5 straight wins. They've scored 4 goals or more in 6 straight. They've got a power play goal in 7 straight, 11 for the last 24, peaking at a really good time. Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, Mikhail Sergachev, Dylan Gunther, and Logan Cooley extending their scoring streaks from 4 games to 5 games in the contest for Utah on Thursday night, as the Mammoth, during the course of this 5-game winning streak, have outscored their opposition 29-14. They are playoff bound, and they have almost officially clinched that first wildcard spot as well. Magic number there, 1 point. With 4 games remaining, it can become official as early as tomorrow at the Delta Center when the Mammoth hosts the Carolina Hurricanes at 3 p.m. Let's hear from the guys after the game. Let's start with Austin Krause, who got his 6th goal in the last 11 games for the Mammoth.
Do games like this become, I don't want to say pressure, but more fun to play in because you know what's on the line?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think, we've been playing meaningful hockey for a while now, so it's these are the games we want to be in. These are the games that we want to get up for, so it's been a lot of fun.
The name of the game was speed tonight, especially through the neutral zone, off the rush. Where did you guys feel like you were at your strongest point tonight with that?
I think in the third period, we started the game pretty well, and then obviously let it kind of get away from us a little bit in the second period, but huge answer back in the third, and we got rewarded for doing so. And obviously Veggie played an incredible game. He made some very timely saves, some big saves, and obviously a pretty crappy bounce on that power play goal coming back through his legs. But, he gave us a true chance to win right from the drop of the puck. So, yeah.
Clayton Keller continues to be a great playmaker. 3 primaries this night. What have you seen out of his game always in that aspect?
Are you surprised?
No.
No, yeah, me neither. Yeah, he's an incredible playmaker. He's got incredible vision, incredible skill, and most importantly, passion for the game. Put all 3 of those together, and that's our captain. You touched on the second period, how they pushed back. What were some of the elements that allowed you guys to stay calm and also keep them from scoring besides Vejmelka's big saves? Yeah, I think just belief in our group and, realizing that we got away from our game and knowing what it took to, kind of play the right way, and we got to it right away.
What makes this team deserving of a playoff spot?
I think just our sacrifice and work ethic all season. We've had ups and downs throughout the year, just like every other team, but, we're right there. We're just scratching the surface and just got to keep going.
Does it feel like you guys have finally found a set of line combinations that is just clicking on all cylinders all the way up and down the lineup?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, a big part of that is the guys that are coming in and filling some big roles. You got Stanley, Tuna, and Turbo the other night in Vancouver scoring a massive goal for us. And then, when they're not scoring, they're creating energy. And, it's easy to rally around that. And, but, yeah, the other lines are clicking. It's been a lot of fun. We just got to keep it going.
How has Keller's leadership evolved this season?
I think just maturity everywhere. He's always been a passionate hockey player. And that's what kind of sticks out for the rest of the group is how much he wants to, be the best player he can possibly be. And by doing so, he pushes the rest of the group to be better. And, as a guy following your captain, that's all you can really ask for. And, he's playing incredible hockey. Schmaltzy, everyone's stepping up and doing their jobs. It's just been a lot of fun.
Utah captain Clayton Keller with his 27th multiple point game of the year. He's up to 15 points in the last 6 games, which is the second most in the NHL in that span. The Utah captain is paving the way and leading the way for Utah as they get ready to go into the playoffs.
It's all at stake, but how proud are you of this group to be where you're at right now?
Yeah, I think it's step in the right direction. We've been playing some good hockey lately. Very confident. Even a couple lapses there in the second, but we fought back, had a great third. Veg was unreal all game, made some timely saves, and kept us in the fight there in the second. So just a great effort by everyone for sure.
You personally had a really great game, especially on the last 2 goals with being able to be a playmaker and help your teammates out. How much pride do you take in being able to do that?
Yeah, I think I've always tried to be a very unselfish player. I like setting my teammates up, and I like to score also. But I think it's just it goes back to how I was coached when I was young. It's we were always the most unselfish team, and we were always, told by Jeff Brown, Keith Tkachuk, we want to be on Sports Center. We always kind of made that extra pass. So, sometimes, it can bite you a little bit. I think you have to have that shot first mentality. But yeah, I think, it's just part of my game. I want to, get my teammates involved and give them good looks.
How much have you mastered? I mean, obviously you worked on this a long time ago, but mastering that no-look pass, obviously the deception part of it impresses everyone. But how'd you work on that? How'd you get so good at that?
I mean, yeah, lots of reps all summer long, pretty much every single day, breaking it down with our skills guys here. It's I've said it before, but it's not like I'm just going out there and skating. It's very detailed, and spots where I'm getting the puck in games and things like that, and kind of watching on the iPad and adjusting and all those little details. So I think just working at it every single day, and I've said that's where the confidence comes from. Is I've been in those situations, and I trust myself.
Tonight and throughout this win streak, what have you liked about your teammates stepping up, whether it's on the score sheet, blocking shots, throwing hits? What has stood out?
Yeah, I think everyone's been great. Everyone's chipped in. We're playing for one another. It's the most fun time of the year. It's fun to come to the rink when you're winning, especially. And every guy that steps in when guys have gone down. I've said it, Desi and Tuna and everyone that's chipped in has made a huge impact. And I think that's how deep of a team we are, and we trust one another and believe in one another.
What makes this group deserving of the postseason?
I think what makes us deserving? I don't think the game I don't know. I think, we fought all year, and it's a step in the right direction, but we still have a long way to go, and we know that. And it's very hard to win, and, a lot of us haven't had that playoff taste in a while, so we want to taste that and play in those meaningful games. And, I think that's when you really learn the most about your team and yourself, and that's when you want to play the best, is when the stakes are the highest.
Head coach Andre Tourigny with the victory, getting Utah to their 42nd win and now 90 standings points as they eclipse last year's total with 4 games left to play. Here's what Bear said after the contest on Thursday.
Boy, that's a good win. That's a big win. Like our first period was a little bit low even, but played well against their forecheck, made good play. Obviously, in the second period, we didn't move our feet as much, so we allowed them to forecheck a little bit better. And there's a few things where we're a little bit too careful, a little bit too safe, and a little bit too passive. And we get back in the third with way more aggressive, moving our feet, better breakouts, and building more speed and scoring big goal at key moments. So very happy about, very proud of the boys, the way they react in the third and the way they tune in. And like I said to them after the game, you won't always play a perfect 16. It's just not realistic. But it's important we build off the fact we're capable of bouncing back and having a really good third period and getting back and playing the right way and winning brand of hockey. So I think they showed, again, mental toughness. They showed resilience. Proud of them.
What stands out about Clayton Keller's playmaking abilities and his vision to see his teammates and set them up with those perfect passes?
Well, I won't really answer your question. I will say this about Keller. He's really tuned in. He's playing rock solid. He's playing, making the right decision with the puck. For me, his ability always been there in this. He can make those plays, but the way he led in the third and moving his feet on the breakout, having a great track, putting pucks behind D, getting on the forecheck. That's what you want from your leader. I just praise the team for how we played in the third. It started with our leaders and rock solid.
They were dialed in on the details of this game, it seemed. In terms of the details, what were the highlights about what made you happy about watching them play that game?
I think the first thing for me, it's how we play against their forecheck. I don't want to just repeat, but we didn't do it very good in the second, but the rest in the first and the third, we did it really good. And that's a good team in the forecheck. And we break out pretty clean. We did not let them get us under attack and under siege, which they're doing on regular base as a team. That's their strength. So really happy about how we move our feet on the breakout and how we execute.
I feel like we talked about speed a lot last year because it was, new team, new talent. Speed this year hasn't necessarily been the forefront of the conversation, but it seemed to be the catalyst of this game.
No,
where does that separate this group from other teams in the league?
That's our number one strength, no doubt about it. But speed is not just the way you skate. I repeat that a lot. It helps for sure, but if you don't think fast, you don't play fast. You need to think fast, and the faster you are as a skater, it'll help. But there's plenty of guys who are no good skater in the league who play extremely fast because they can think ahead all the time. So I think our team, when we are connected, we had our IQ, our speed, and our style of play were really fast, and that is where we can be a challenge for a certain team because we're different. We have a different speed limit. We're fast, so we have to take advantage of that.
So with the Mammoth presumably in that first wild card spot, we now await the winner of the Pacific Division, and we've got 3 teams separated by a point. Edmonton with the tiebreaker, Vegas, and then Anaheim. Those 3 teams separated by a point, but right now Edmonton has the tiebreaker. That is who Utah would face if the playoffs started today. Speaking of playoffs, playoff tickets go on sale at 9:30 with an exclusive pre-sale on the Mammoth app. Get the Utah Mammoth app, and you can be involved in that exclusive playoff ticket pre-sale at 9:30. Playoff tickets go on sale to the general public this morning at 10 a.m. Check out Utah Mammoth socials for all of the details there. Your favorite social platform will have all of your playoff ticket information. And Mike Fulton and I have it all covered on today's edition of Mammoth Daily, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Utah Mammoth YouTube page, Mammoth Plus, SEG Plus. Will wrap up the week and get you ready for a big playoff run for the Mammoth with our reaction following the contest on Thursday, looking ahead to Carolina and what else is to come for the Utah Mammoth, who are now postseason bound. We'll be back on the radio Hockey Night in Utah at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Carolina, the opposition, the Metropolitan Division champions. Puck drops at 3. Utah will be in Calgary coming up at 7 o'clock on Sunday night, and back home Tuesday with Winnipeg and Thursday with St. Louis to wrap up the regular season.
There is the best of the Mammoth postgame show, and they still got 4 games to go before we get to the playoffs. Next week at this time, we ought to know who they're playing, where they're playing, how it's all going to shake out, and why it'll be Edmonton. Well, we don't know that, but we suspect it. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we're talking BYU basketball with Mark Durrant. The transfer portal is live and hopping. Mark Durrant's next. Stay with us. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. When I first moved to Utah, Mark Durrant was on the BYU basketball team. And now he's a longtime voice of the Cougars, along with Greg Wrubell. They call the games on the radio. Mark joins us periodically, and with all the news in the transfer portal, the players coming and going, a whole new BYU basketball team on the way. Mark took a few minutes out and joined PK and I late in yesterday's show. Here's our conversation with the BYU broadcaster, Mark Durrant. So the last 2 days have been pretty busy with guys hitting the portal. It looks like you're going to have to meet a bunch of new basketball players and get to know them. Does this surprise you at all, or is this the way you figured it was going to go?
No, I mean, I don't think any of us are surprised at this point. I remember thinking, this season calling games, there were several games that the opponent had no one back from last year, a completely new team. And then there'd be the guys that, that had been on 5 different teams. So that's the way it goes. And you can complain about it. And I'm an old school guy, so I think back to the old days a little bit, but complaining about it's not going to change anything. And it's like trying to hold back the dam with a thimble, and so you just kind of go with the flow and try and know the system as best you can and take advantage of where you can and put together the best team you can and try and get some chemistry with that team you put together. So until something changes, that's kind of where we're at, and no use complaining about it. Just kind of do your best with what you can do.
Yeah, there's no question that it is a system-wide issue. It's not particular to any particular school that you have this enormous turnover. I'm wondering, going forward with Kevin Young, as he's figuring things out, he's only going into his third season as a college basketball coach, and he takes over in probably the most turbulent of times and chaotic times ever, and nevertheless you have to negotiate and navigate it. With that in mind, what would you say would be the best way for BYU to approach it? Could it be continue to do what you do, or try to find some stability so you're not overhauling the roster, even if that is possible?
Yeah, I mean that's the great question for Kevin Young, and I think he comes from a unique place with the NBA, and you're starting to see, I think, more NBA guys, coach North Carolina from the Nuggets, Malone, and I think that helps to come from an NBA mindset where it's more like what we're seeing now, players getting in. And anyway, I've been thinking about this a little bit, Pat, and I think the formula for BYU would be, listen, it's an LDS institution, so I think that the number one thing is you try and get the best LDS talent. Now, that's always been the case, except for when they took me. I was a mediocre talent, but well, it
was a favor because they got your brother.
Yeah, they did. They did. I was a legacy, but you always wanted to get the best LDS talent. But the pool now is bigger than it ever was, and the best LDS players are better than when I played. But what you have to do is not just assume that a kid is LDS, that he's going to come to BYU. You need to pay them what they would get paid anywhere. And so you try and get the best LDS talent out there, whether that's 2, 3, 4 guys. And one of the reasons I say that, because it just makes sense, because it's an LDS school. But also when you've got historical ties and religious ties to an institution, you may have a little bit more stability. I mean, obviously, LDS guys transfer out of BYU all the time, but there might be a better chance to keep those kids and have a little bit better structure. And then, of course, you're not going to be successful unless you're heavily involved in the transfer portal. So you're always going to have 4 or 5 guys that are transfer portal guys and obviously you need guys that have proven themselves. I think it's a world today where there's no more kind of projects, and I think BYU had several project guys who that are enticing. You think, well, if I can just work with these guys for a few years, they're going to be a good player someday. I think that those days are gone where you can't afford to invest time in project players that might produce someday, because even if they do get good, then they probably will leave at that point and go somewhere else. So you've got to have proven commodities from where they were before and get guys out of the transfer portal. And then it's a matter of maybe 1, maybe 2. I mean, the freshmen, the idea of bringing in a freshman is become much more risky and complicated because they don't have that track record, even if they're really – I mean, they have to be really good out of high school so you kind of know what you're getting. But even the best high school players sometimes don't translate great into college. And so, I mean, it's just too risky to go with freshmen and projects. So you're looking at try and keep the core guys you can, get best LDS kids you can, and pay them, and then get the transfer kids in. I mean, I don't think this is new to anybody, and that's the world, like I said, we live in. The Michigans of the world bringing in transfers. That's how that's just how it's done. But I do think that Kevin Young is in a good spot to handle that, because he has had experience in the NBA game, and he's not kind of like me, who's in the old school guy, kind of pining for how it was. He's like, no, this is what I know. I'm not worried about what has gone on 20 years ago. And he's, I think, in a good position to be able to kind of navigate this. And also, he's a young guy. He's going to make mistakes, but I think he's really driven to succeed. And so I think he's learning and picking up the things that he needs to do from year to year, and we'll get better and better as we go.
If the rumors about Colin Chandler leaving Kentucky and transferring to BYU are true, then does that set a new path for bounce-back kids, which we haven't really seen, but he played in Farmington. He goes away because, of course, we all think of Kentucky as a feeder school, obviously. But to your point about freshmen, he only plays 10 minutes. He shoots 36%. His shooting numbers, his field goal percentage, his three-point field goal percentage, they come way up. Even as a sophomore, he's struggling late in the season at the end of the SEC tournament, and he did not shoot it well in their 2 NCAA tournament games. But if he's learning, growing, getting bigger, stronger, maybe as a junior he's ready to go. So does it become a case of, yes, they're going to be church members getting recruited to BYU, but not as freshmen? You recruit them, you get to know them, you stay in touch with them, and then for the guys who get better, you bring them back sophomore, junior, senior season, whatever it's appropriate.
Yeah, I think you're right, David. I think that's probably where a lot will happen. Obviously, BYU is taking a couple of LES freshmen this year. So that I think will always be part of it. But again, it's and certainly BYU would have loved to take Colin. I mean, they wanted to take Colin as a freshman, and because Mark Pope went to Kentucky, he had that connection that he went there. But there are other LES kids out there, a couple Clemson kids and others that have kind of shown that they can compete at a high level and contribute. And you don't even have to. I mean, you don't have to be superstars. You just need to show that you can make a team better and can contribute and give minutes. And so I think that, again, the risk level for a junior Colin Chandler is much better than the freshman Colin Chandler, although you would have gladly taken that risk with him. But with that said, I mean, everybody now knows that Colin Chandler is a great three-point shooter and is a super athlete and is on a track to be like a Richie Saunders, where, you make that jump from a sophomore where he was really good on a Kentucky team and he could really be a superstar these next 2 years. But because of that, now that the risk is gone, you have to pay more, and he's going to have to, show up with the Brinks truck with him. But to your original question, yes, I mean, I think that's ideal, that a kid goes out, shows what he can do. Maybe his heart growing up, he's a BYU fan, or because of the religious ties, that he would like that experience at BYU. And then at that point, he's kind of proven himself, and you can feel more confident, even if you have to pay him, in bringing him back.
In Portland, I was up there, and after the game, after the formal press conference, me and a couple other guys were waiting for Kevin Young, and he saw us there, so he stopped, very accommodating. And one of the things he said is that, he's going hard for shooters. To him, shooting is the holy grail of recruiting. All right, I can buy that. How do you balance that with guys that want to defend too? Because obviously that was a weakness for the Cougars.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a big miss for him, and he regrets it. Although, obviously when you talk about this year, you're talking about injuries. I mean, Dawson Baker would have been a decent three-point shooter, and Pickens might have been okay. But you basically on this year's team, you had Richie, who was an elite three-point shooter, and then AJ and Rob. Rob turned out to be a pretty good three-point shooter. AJ was serviceable. He was good, probably his biggest weakness, but still very good. So you had three guys that were decent. Moo Davis was incredibly streaky. I mean, he'll have 5 threes in a second half and then miss his next 30. So once Richie was out, so your elite shooter's gone, and then everybody's kind of focused on Rob and AJ because they know there's no one else is going to make shots. Kosich was a little bit streaky. He was good at times, but you just had no shooters, and you just can't get away with that in college basketball. So there might have been some unique situations where because of AJ's how amazing he was and singular talent that he was, that you just couldn't invest in getting shooters, and maybe that was it, or the injuries, whatever it was. But BYU was left in a tough spot where they didn't have shooters, and I think that's where that was coming from Coach Young. Regardless of who's on my team, I got to have guys that can make some shots from the three. It's just too important for college basketball. Yes, if you're like Arizona or Michigan with unbelievable size and athleticism at all spots, maybe you don't have to rely on that. But for the rest of the world, you better have some shooters. And the year before, BYU had a plethora, as Guapo would say, of shooters. And and they could play 10, 11 guys. And this team was just so thin on the shooting. So I think Coach Young was stung by that. He might have tried to plan for it, but it didn't work out. And so now he's going to make sure that whatever I've got, I'm going to have guys that can make a three, because it's just too big of what you need in college basketball, any level of basketball really nowadays. It's the 3-point shot that can really make a difference.
BYU is 59th in defensive rating, and Arizona and Michigan were 1 and 2. And all the 1 and 2 seeds seemed like they were top 10 or top 12 in defensive rating. So if you really want to be elite, you got to be elite there. You mentioned size. Rob Wright, best case scenario, looked his matchup in the eye, but probably was giving up size. Kebaketa gave up size against the better teams. This was an undersized team in multiple positions. Do you think that changes going forward? And he'll put, I don't know if he's going to bring in Harms to, be 7'3" and stand there at the rim and turn everyone away. Maybe he will be. What do you think as far as getting bigger players?
Well, I'm a guy that BYU historically, they've certainly had some good big guys, but like a Hoffa or whoever, but they've had a lot of really overperforming kind of smaller guys, the McKelly Wesleys, the Fusini Traore's, the Kebaketas. They really haven't had a lot of 7'2" guys that are capable scorers and rim protectors. And I think, just again, in today's basketball, the big man maybe is a little less important, but you look at those guys. Michigan's, Arizona, that guy caused unbelievable problems for BYU down low. Texas, their big guy was the reason they won that game, and BYU struggled against teams with really, really good big men. And you can't just Keba was one of my all-time favorites. I mean, he was a walking highlight film, and he could block shots, but he was undersized, and that comes not just in rim protection, but giving up rebounds and all those things. It just you have to have big bodies, and not only big bodies, but you have to have an offensive presence down low. And what guys like Fusini and McKelly and other guys that I've referenced, they were great scorers down low. So even though they're giving up size, they could score for you. When you don't have anyone that can score in the paint with the back to the basket, that just limits you and makes it easier for teams defensively to stop you. So not only do you need a big 7'2" guy, but he's got to be able to score the basket. Now, this is something every team in the country wants.
Yeah,
right.
And so there's high demand for those guys. But if BYU can somehow manage to get one of those types of guys, doesn't need to be scoring 30 points a game, but get 10 points a game, 7-footer, just lurking back there, I think that would really, really help BYU. I think of Utah teams over the years, and they haven't been great the last 20 years or so, but man, they put several big guys in the NBA, that type of guy. And I think if BYU could just find a way to get somebody like that, it could really help their prospects.
It was a lot of fun to have A.J. DeBonsa in the program, and the kid just is so charming, and wow, what a kid. I don't know that you're going to find a better representative who's only going to be here 1 year and is not an LDS kid and doesn't come from Utah and all that. He was just a gem. Now we're all going to root for him going forward. You had a front row seat every single time he put the ball on the floor and did his thing, and it was just amazing. Forecast for us what you think he'll be as far as a pro, ranging from a decent player, an occasional all-star, perennial all-star, Hall of Fame. Where do you think?
Yeah, it was a kind of a thrill for me to watch him. Obviously, the season wasn't ideal how it turned out for BYU, but it was a fun season, and watching him was like,
yeah,
it was really cool.
Right.
And I love that he was so in on BYU, and I credit a lot to his parents. Ace is a great guy, and they just kept him humble and kept him thinking right. And he was a great teammate, giving gifts to his teammates because he could. And he cares about a lot of things other than basketball, but he loves basketball. And I'd go to these these optional shoot-arounds on the road, and he was always there, always working, and he would work so hard. He was constantly working on his game, and he wants to get better. He loves the game, and you see that as a characteristic of the greats. So, but in answer to your question, I was talking to Matt Carlino, who's a former BYU player who does the color at TCU, and he comes up to me, and this was him, and he said, "I think AJ is going to be the face of the NBA for the next 20 years."
Wow.
And I think he can be that guy. I mean, he, because of the charisma and his, he just has that nature about him that would make people like him. And I think he's got the game. And because he works hard, he's gonna get better and better. But what he can do, and then you take him out of college and put him in the NBA where there's better spacing and they protect the offense a little bit more. I think, watching him do that little pull-up jumper, obviously no one will ever be as good as Michael Jordan probably, but you see things from great players in what he does, whether it's Kevin Durrant or Michael Jordan, that pull-up jumper that, it just looks really cool to watch him do what he does. And I think he will be a perennial all-star and could end up being a Hall of Famer, and will be someone that if he does do that, whatever happens, he's going to be proud of that he went to BYU and will rep BYU and will be paying dividends for BYU bringing him in for many, many years to come. I think he's going to be one of the greats, and I can't wait to see what happens for him.
Well, Mark, we'll clip and save that. Turn you into Nostradamus.
I agree with you, Mark.
Well, Pat, one of the things I like about you most is you agree with me on things.
Mark, thanks for joining us here. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again.
Yeah, I love you guys. Anytime, man.
All right, there's Mark Durrant talking BYU basketball. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.